Alright, I want to go over some adjustments you can do to these holsters, whether inside or outside the waistband. And I've got a bunch of holsters laid out here that are my personal holsters. And then I've got one, you're going to receive it in the package. You pull your holster out, and basically your holster is going to come to you like this. We always, with the clips, we always mount them at the very bottom toward the front of the gun basically. It'll be in the first mount and the third mount. This clip will have the bottom two screws in it and not this one. So this is how it comes. It also comes with a small riser. You're going to get both the small and the large riser. Now with the small and the large riser, what these do is with your gun, when you put the riser on and it's running across that, it tucks this grip back into your body. Which is really nice for concealed carry, so you can carry a larger gun. I carry a Glock 19 and it tucks that grip into my body, so you can't see that grip sticking out under my shirt, or just that little protrusion off my shirt. You can't see it at all because it pushes it back into my body so well. It does a really good job, and I only run the small one. Some of you might want to run the larger one, or you might need to run the larger one, and that's fine. And then some of you may not need to run either and just have them off altogether like this one. Now this one is outside the waistband carry. It is set up to my preference on outside the waistband carry, and this is where I have it. So I've moved this one up, and this sits it a little further down on the outside of the waistband. So I've sat down. So it's not riding too high, so I don't have to reach way up in the air to grab my gun. And it's canted just a little bit. If you see these, they're not straight in line. It's not straight across, so the belt's going to sit. So it actually sits this grip forward a little bit, so it's going to sit on my side something like that. And of course, if you're looking at it from the outside, it's not straight up and down, but it's canted forward just a little bit. And with that cant, basically this part rides into my side, and this with the grip actually tucks in almost around to my back, at least the back of my side right there, and it tucks in really well. So you can do this. We left this one, or I left this one here, and I moved this one up several notches to there, and that's where I like this one to ride for outside the waistband carry. Now I carry inside the waistband most of the time when I'm doing training and stuff. That's why we've got the CERT gun in here. I've got a class tomorrow, and I'll be wearing this with the CERT gun. I don't have my live firearms in a training class. So I set this one up for the guys, showing them about outside the waistband carry and all that. So I have this set up to my preference. Now, inside the waistband, we've got all these different ones inside the waistband. Again, this is how it's going to come set up. I don't keep mine like this. I adjust mine. I want to show you some ways I've adjusted different firearms and ways you can adjust them. This one has the optic cut. This is for my Taurus Toro, G3C Toro. So it had the optic cut in it. If you can see, the optic's cut out, so the optic would sit in. And this, I would have it sit just canted a little bit forward, so the belt would ride across something like that. So it's not actually I should say backwards, because basically your belt would sit right here, and I didn't want that optic to hit the belt. So I have it lean just a hair. It's not a whole lot, but it's just enough for that optic not to hit that belt. And if you see what we've done here with this one, we basically chopped off one of the, they have 3 holes. This one only has 2 holes, if you can see that. Basically all I did was I just ground this off. I have a little bench grinder, and you just send it to the bench grinder, and then you cut your little curve into it, and then you can go back with a Sharpie or a paint marker and paint that off. It doesn't bother me. You can tell this one's been used for a while. It's got the scratches on here, and that's from me leaning and working on stuff. I do a lot of work on stuff, and it gets scuffed and scratched. If you just work a normal job, that you're not like doing maintenance or construction. If you're doing maintenance and construction, guys, you're going to get these scratches. If you've got an office job and you're not hitting your desk and stuff like that, it's going to be like this the whole time. But since I do work on some stuff, especially a lot around here making the holsters and leaning up against the grinders and stuff, or the milling machine, the table comes out so far that I hit it and I scuff it as well. But this is the way I set this one, so I moved it down so it comes stock like this. If we can see here, it would come stock with the one hole rose up just like that sitting above, but I moved that down and then I cut that off because I didn't want it protruding here. Now there's nothing wrong with allowing it to protrude. You can. It doesn't bother anything. Like this one is for my G3, the full-size Taurus 9mm Toro with the optic here, and I pulled it down and I never even cut this off. I just wore it like that. I just kept it, and if you see, I put the one on here, and that allowed me for a little bit of a tilt this away. One is all you need. You don't actually need the two, so you can either have it all the way down or you can pull it all the way up. But this one, the way it's set in there, it's set perfectly the way I wanted it, just like that. The belt still went against this one, and on the larger G3 with the larger grip, I put the larger or the tall riser on here, so it took that grip even further back into my body. And that's the way that one works. So I left this one basically the way you're going to get it is stock, is that's where we send it out of the factory, the shop. And then this one, I just put the one here, and that's the way I wanted it to sit, so I carry it just like that when I carry this firearm. Now the same thing with this one on here. I put the this one's got the hood on it, so I went to the one with the hood. We made these originally. Now these work. They're cheaper. These are a little more expensive, but they do protect that optic that you've got, depending on what type of optic you have. The 507C, the Holosun, I do suggest protecting that optic because it's got that solar panel up top, and you want to keep that solar panel protected. This part, the facing, isn't that big of a deal. The back part, you're going to get dirt in there either way. There's not much we can do about that back part. You know, and you still be able to draw your gun and not have to pull some kind of cover or cap off of it, and we don't want any of that. But this one, I put it to the same spot here, but I left the one screw out because I wanted this one. If you can tell, it sits just a little bit in like that, and that works perfectly for me. And it moves a little bit when I put it on. I think it moves a little bit more that way, which is fine. This can move this way a little bit. It's not going to be a big deal with that, but it's not going to allow your gun's not going to do this at all. Once it gets set in there, once you get it seated where you want it, it's not going to move around. So that's an option as well. Another option I have, now this is for my G3C with the light combo on it. It's got the laser light, the Olight Ball-Door Mini laser light combo. So if you can tell with this, basically I went from a holster like that to that much more in the appendix carry. So I needed to move this gun around on my waist a little more, so it's not sitting at the place that I prefer with this. And what I did with that is I wanted it to sit a little bit canted, a little bit forward, a little bit more. So I actually took this and I moved it on the other side of the belt wing. It still rides across the belt ring, it tucks it in, it holds it really good. So that's something you can do as well. You can even ride this on the other side of the belt wing. There's almost endless possibilities of how to adjust this to your body. One of the things with buying a holster, I've been carrying a concealed weapon for 25 years now. I got my permit when I was 21, so that gives you my age. I'm 46 years old. I've been teaching firearms training classes for 14 years, and I've been buying holsters you know, for 25 years now. What I found is you get a holster, it feels good, but it's just not right. So I would end up cutting on holsters and moving, and you know, like one of the higher name brands that I liked, I would buy it, but then it didn't sit right, so I'd end up drilling more holes in that holster and moving that clip, the belt clip. I would cut some of the stuff off of it. I would do all that. And what we did, or what I did, is I took all the features that a lot of the holsters I liked, and then some other features that I wanted, and I made a holster for myself personally. And then I was able to adjust it for all these guns no matter where I carried that gun, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, and I was able to adjust it to my comfort and my feel. And then what I did is I was like, hey, you know, I can make holsters now. Let me talk to some of my friends, some of the people I know, some of my students, and they wanted holsters. So I started making them holsters, and they were able to adjust to the way the contours of their bodies and all that. So this is why we've left this design. We've been perfecting this over the past several years now, and we've got it to a point to where we haven't found a person that couldn't mold it to their body. Basically, they could adjust these in all kind of ways. You know, you can go around here, you can set it down, you can set it a little lower on your body, a little higher on your body. You can set it, can it forward, can it backwards. However you need to do it, move it around on your belt a little more. So these holsters are made or designed with that in mind. I'm a medium-sized build. My holsters fit me a certain ways. A lot of my friends are smaller than me, and a lot of my friends are bigger than me. And they were able to take these clips and the retention adjustment and the risers. And you know, if you see this, I've got several different risers depending on what holster I have. This one works at this spot. And this one works at this spot, the same gun, but a different way to do the holster, because this is going to make a little bit of a difference. Now, with all of that, with adjusting, I will tell you that you're going to have to work on the holster. You may not be able to just slap it on your waist and say, oh, that's where I want it. You may want to adjust it, because that's the way I did with every holster I've had. I wanted to adjust it. I would move that clip down or move that clip up. And once you get it set right, you don't have to worry about it anymore. But you don't have to do any cutting, you don't have to do any of that, unless you do want to file. You know, if you set it down like that and you want to cut that little piece off, you can, but you don't have to. This doesn't get in the way of anything, and it doesn't bother anything. Neither does this. It's almost just kind of like an aesthetic thing. You just cut that off, so it's nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about it getting in your way. Alright guys, I just wanted to show you a few ways that you can adjust these clips and make it fit to your person. If you're outside the waistband, I honestly just suggest taking the risers off. Leave the wing, but take the risers off. This wing actually adds a good hardness to it. It makes it a little bit stiffer, gives it good rigidity in wearing the holster, and it keeps that holster good and solid basically on your side, and it makes where these clips utilize and do everything they're supposed to do. Inside the waistband, you can either have it off or have the small or have the large riser on it, and then you've got your retention here. You can have that gun easier or harder to draw. Just make sure however you have it, it doesn't just fall out, and it comes out pretty easy. Now you outside the waistband guys, you might want to tighten that up a little bit, so you've got to really give that good yank. So if somebody comes behind you and they may not be able to get it off right away, you know, you can elbow them in the head, get them off of you, and then grab that gun. But you don't want it so hard you can't get it out, but you don't want it so easy that it's just falling out. Something like this is good, especially for inside the waistband. Outside the waistband, if I was actually carrying this gun outside the waistband, I would probably tighten this up a little bit more, but it's just for a training class, showing some things about holsters basically. So I've got that one set at that retention. And again, all of this hardware swaps from this side to this side, so we can do the exact same things that we do on this side for you left-handers, or for you right-hander outside the waistband, left-hander inside, right hand inside, left hand inside. It does all of it, and it does all of it really well. And once you get all of this adjusted to the way that sits your body, that fits you, that feels comfortable, it will stay in that spot, and it will remain in that comfort sitting spot for the rest of its life. We lifetime warranty them. If you have any problems with them, let us know. We haven't really had any problems with any of them yet. We've been testing for a while. You know, we've jumped up and down on them and done all that crazy stuff. You should see us out here in the shop doing our testing. I would throw one on the floor, and me and my little boy would start jumping up and down on it and doing all that to see how tough they are. And they're pretty tough, and they're also pretty lightweight. They're not as heavy as some of your other holsters. We went to a little bit lighter, and we've cut a little bit more off. Even with the Glock here, we cut this, what we call a leg cut in it, right here, especially for you appendix carry guys. So that way your leg, this sits kind of at the contour of your leg, so your leg can still come up and down and just that little bit right there makes a huge difference. For you guys that are going to have that light, there's not much we can do about it with the ones that we make the light holsters for. Right now we've only got the ball door minis. We're working on a couple other, we just haven't got them perfected yet. But there's not much we can do, especially for your appendix carries that likes to sit a little off to the side the way I do. You're gonna have to move this on around almost straight in line with your gig line basically. But with that, you can adjust it to where this sits like this, and this is how I had it. I had it adjusted so it would sit on a little bit further, and it fit me right. Alright, this is just going over some of the adjustments, especially with the clips of the holsters. There's almost infinite adjustment on that. If you're looking for a holster that's comfortable, that will stay in place, it won't come off of your belt. They have that belt retention clip on each of the clips, on both clips. So you've got a dual belt retention, so if you get in a scuffle or a fight, somebody attacks you, you've got to push them off of you. You know, they're trying to stab you or whatever they're trying to do. You've got them off of you, and then you can draw that gun. That gun the gun is what's going to come out, not the holster and the gun. I've been in enough training situations, and I've been in enough real life situations to where things have happened, and even things that were holstered on me has just fell out. And even when it has a flap that covers the stuff. I worked security for over 20 years, and we had all this junk on our belt basically, and that happens. This will not happen with this. As far as the holster, you go to reach and grab that gun, you draw that gun, the holster's not going to come off. No matter what kind of scuffle we've done practicing with the wrestling around with each other's with our training firearms on us, and then we would go to draw that gun, and when we drew the gun, the holster stayed all the time, every single time. And all the guys that have used them in their training have never had a problem with the holster coming off. That's unfortunately some of the holsters that have the single clip, or the cheaper clips that don't have the retention. Even some of them with the dual clips that don't have the retention clip on them, they'll just come off of your waistband. If you're in a situation you don't need that. Alright guys, just wanted to show some stuff about our holsters. Check us out at defensetraining.org/holsters.